It's time for our 2025 WNBA primer. I know that's why so many of you are here. You want to get into the W this year. You love Paige Beckers. You love Angel Reese. You love CC22, Caitlin Clark. You want to know what's the lay of the land. And we are here to provide you team by team everything you need to know. A couple of these teams we're just going to run through kind of quickly because I'm sorry, Connecticut Sun, I don't think you're going to be competing for a championship this year. But there will be some others that, needless to say, we will spend a bit more time on. We begin, Mitch, as we probably should, which is with the reigning champions, the New York Liberty. This past season, of course, in addition to winning the title, the New York Liberty finished 32-8. They'll begin their regular season May 17th against Las Vegas. And, of course, a projected starting lineup of Sabrina Ionescu, Brianna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, the big three, followed by Natasha Cloud and Leonie It's Feebach. I always mispronounce it.
I think it's Feebich.
Feebich, one of the breakout candidates from a season ago and a member of that rotation. They lose Courtney Vandersloot, who goes back to Chicago. What do you make of the Liberty heading into 2025?
Yeah, I mean, still a really good roster. I wonder how the Cloud-Ionescu partnership goes in the backcourt. And I wonder how they're impacted by the losses of Courtney Vandersloot and Kayla Thornton, who's lost in the expansion draft. Bentaj Laney Hamilton is sidelined, I think, for most of the year here.
Yep.
Yeah, so I just kind of wonder, like, do they have enough? Do they have the juice to put this thing together and run it back? I also kind of wonder what Nira Sabali's role is going to be this year after she had, a really, really good finals run, really helped them win that game 5. So yeah, I think all eyes are going to be on the Liberty in terms of, like, can they repeat? Can they get back? Can Brianna Stewart, be just as good as she was last year? How much does Jonquel Jones still have left in the tank? How much better can Sabrina Ionescu get?
And certainly, this is a Liberty team that didn't have a whole heck of a lot of capital to play with in the WNBA draft, and so it's a roster that largely looks exactly like the one that we saw holding the trophy at season's end.
Yeah, definitely. I think, not a whole lot of change here, other than the big point guard thing. Courtney Vandersloot out, Natasha Cloud in. I just kind of wonder how that's going to go.
Let's keep it moving with the team that finished as runner-ups in the WNBA finals, a team that I think if I had told you a year ago, Mitch, that they were going to go all the way, yes, you probably would have said, well, Cheryl Reeves, she's one of the best coaches in the W. Of course, they're going to make a run. But this ragtag bunch, not to mention the ascension of Napheesa Collier, leads the Minnesota Lynx to the promised land, to the WNBA finals, ultimately falling to the aforementioned New York Liberty. But certainly a team that you can make the argument, Mitch, this is where maybe they take another step forward, or was last season, quite frankly, just lightning in a bottle and Courtney Williams being on an absolute heater?
Yeah, I guess that's a big question, right? It's like, is what they did last season replicable in terms of, Courtney Williams playing out of her mind in the postseason. And yeah, like you mentioned, the ascension of Napheesa Collier, it seems like that she's kind of kept that going. We talk about, she was really, really good and unrivaled. If she can kind of just keep that play up and keep getting better, Napheesa Collier is somebody who, if you're looking for kind of a dark horse pick, maybe for MVP, like if you don't want to bet on, Asia Wilson to repeat or Caitlin Clark to nab one or Brianna Stewart, I think Napheesa Collier is a pretty good bet. She's actually third in odds on FanDuel right now, and I'm not sure what she is on DraftKings, but I'll look at some other time. I think that's the big question here is what you did last season replicable? I think it probably is. I think because a big part of that was just the fact that you have Cheryl Reeve and no other team does.
They have their entire starting 5 back from that team that lost in overtime of the decisive Game 5 of the WNBA Finals. That, of course, includes Fee Collier, Courtney Williams, which we talked about both those players. Bridget Carlton still hanging around Minnesota. It's kind of rare to see a player entering year 7 and still with the team that drafted her, even if she's not perhaps one of the preeminent names that you think of when you think of that franchise. Kayla McBride and Elena Smith, round out the starting 5 for the Minnesota Lynx, who went 30-10 last year. And that was, they were, what was it, 18 wins the year prior, 20 wins, something like that. The number is escaping me. But point being, a massive jump from a group that not many were expecting from in 2024. A lot will be expected in 2025.
Is Bridget Carlton just kind of like a part of the arena, or like is she like the Udonis Haslam, like the
Well, yeah,
Miami Heat?
I'd say she's Udonis at this point.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
she's just
I
there
mean,
no matter what. Yeah,
and you couple that with the fact that she played in Ames, and so that's like approximately like 3.5 hours away. And so like she's just there. Like you can't have the Minnesota Lynx without Bridget Carlton.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to see it. Who will be the Bridget Carlton for the Golden State Valkyries? Yes, from the two preeminent teams that made it all the way to the finals, we go to the newest team in the W this season. The Golden State Valkyries will make their debut in the regular season, preseason, of course, coming up this weekend, against the Los Angeles Sparks on May 16th. Here is their projected starting five: Tiffany Hayes, Kayla Thornton, Monique Billings, Teme Fagbenle, and Julie Van Loo. I do not see Kate Martin's name in that starting five. I don't see Caitlin Chen's name in that starting five, which breaks my heart because I'm just kidding about Caitlin Chen, but not. And Kate Martin, I think, is going to be the sixth woman of the year potentially, or at the very least will be in that conversation depending on how the Valkyries fare, because I think it's interesting when you think the Valkyries in their limited history so far, who is the player that you say, oh, that's the face of the Valkyries, especially knowing, Mitch, that their front office has been very vocal. They're not trying to dub anyone the face of the franchise. And that's why they weren't forcing any sort of crazy pick in the WNBA draft, because they know that this is a long-term build.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like their first round pick might not even come over this year. TBD on Juice Day. But yeah, I think that's my question. You mentioned Kate Martin. Like, how big of a part of like the rotation is she going to be, and like how big of a role is she going to have? I kind of look at this roster, and I don't really see a reason why she can't be a starter and can't be the face of this team.
Because I think she is. Like, I love Teme, but like in terms
Yeah, I
of
think
name
so too.
recognition, like, and yes, a lot of it is because she's best friends with Caitlin Clark, but like truly in terms of players that contributed to their team in a meaningful way and started games in the W last year, I mean, you could make the argument she's probably the biggest name next to Tiff Hayes.
Yeah, I think so. I think Monique Billings is good and has some good years ahead of her. I think Cheyenne Sellers, if she can kind of get healthy, like can have an impact on this team. But like I look at this roster and I say, why not for Kate Martin? I think she can certainly be maybe the best player on this team. I think she can be a starter. I think she can be the face of this team in year one. Now, I don't know what she's exactly going to be the face of. I don't know how good they're going to be. I mean, Julie Valou is another player who I think is super talented and one of the older rookies last year, but like had some really good games for the Mystics, played really well in the Olympics. It's an interesting team. I guess I don't expect a whole lot from them in terms of wins, but I'm just kind of interested in like what it looks like in year one.
I know they did really well with their season ticket allotment. So they're going to pack the arena. They're going to pack the Chase Center, and that's good for women's basketball. But yes, it's going to be fascinating because I know they're not going to be a finished product at year's end this year, but also at the same time, who's the face on the banner outside of the arena? Like that's what I think is going to be so interesting to see, because I think at this point, and again, I don't think I'm biased when I say it, I think it's Kate Martin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. I think she's the one at this point where everybody on that roster is at in their careers. Like if this was 6 years ago, I think it's Tip Hayes, but it's not 6 years ago. It's 2025, and so I think right now it's Kate Martin, and I think like it also just said a lot to me in terms of like what she means to a locker room and like what she brought to the Aces last year in terms of like how tore up like that team was to like they had to let her go in the expansion draft, and had a really great relationship with Asia Wilson and all that stuff. So I expect I'm looking forward to the kind of season that she's going to have.
All right, we won't bury the lead. The next team, as we go through our WNBA preview, is the team that I know many of you are fascinated by. It's the team that I don't know what the odds are in the sports books up there in North Carolina, Mitch, but certainly nationally, the conversation when it comes to the WNBA surrounds the Indiana Fever, the second season of Caitlin Clark in the W and how this team that's been retooled with a new coach, they've brought in some veteran players. You can make the argument they're in win now mode combined with that young core that they still have predominantly on rookie contracts and where they go from here. And so the Indiana Fever's projected starting lineup after a 20-20 season in which they finished sixth in the standings and lost in the first round to the Connecticut Sun. Former Connecticut Sun leader, DeWanna Bonner, Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, Natasha Howard, and Kelsey Mitchell. Of course, it is important to note Sophie Cunningham coming over in a trade from the Phoenix Mercury. Lexi Hull emerged in her third season in the W as a wing and, of course, as the mermaid, the friend of Caitlin Clark, the Batman and Robin. And so I think that what stands out to me, and I know that this was also going to be a critique of Steph White's first team back with the Fever, this idea of, did they go out and get too many pieces? Did they go out and get a couple players who clearly are in the final years of their career, coupled with the trade for Sophie Cunningham, who we talked about Flau'jae Johnson earlier? How much does Sophie need to have the ball in her hands? How much should Caitlin Clark have the ball in her hands as a true point guard versus maybe playing off the ball? Do you have Kelsey Mitchell perhaps do a little bit more of the ball handling? I think what they did was they went out and they got a bunch of versatile pieces, and that's going to give Steph White an ability to run out a couple different lineups. I don't want to say they're going to be Kim Caldwell hockey shifts because Caitlin Clark's going to play 30 plus minutes. And I would think Aaliyah Boston, if she stays out of foul trouble, will as well. And Kelsey Mitchell, you hope she stays healthy, and she's also in that sort of range. But I think that what they did was they went out and they got a lot of players who can do a lot of different things, and they can present many different looks.
That was my read on this as well. It's like they clearly have a big three, right? It's Caitlin, number first and foremost one, and then Aaliyah Boston, and then Kelsey Mitchell, and like so those are your stars. That's the core of your roster, and then you went out and you got all these interesting pieces to put around her. If you need somebody to come in and be the stopper, I mean, who was the player who had the most success guarding Caitlin Clark last year? It was DeWanna Bonner. And now you added her to your roster. She's, a super veteran, has been around a long time, but it still has a lot left in the tank, can still be one of the best defenders in the WNBA. You went out and got Brianna Turner, a versatile forward who can do a lot of things. You got Sophie Cunningham, who can come off the bench and get really hot, hit some threes, play some good defense, do some things. It is a really good roster. It signaled to me, that coupled with hiring Stephanie White does signal to me we're ready to win now mode. Let's go get after this. Let's capitalize on having Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston on these cheaper rookie contracts and spending and kind of putting the pieces around them. I think the expectation for the Fever is to go to the finals and see what happens. They went to the playoffs last year, lost in the first round. I think the moves that they made in the offseason clearly should signal to their fan base and to everybody else that they're ready to win big. Just to kind of circle back to the betting side of things, they are fourth in odds on DraftKings to win the finals at plus 380 behind the Liberty, Aces, and Lynx. And on FanDuel, they're third at plus 350, actually tied for second with the Aces at plus 350. So it is the expectation, I think, of the sports books as well. They're like, this is a title contending team.
And I think that the one critique we can make of this roster, or at the very least, it's what Fever fans have been clamoring to me about, the idea of Aaliyah Boston still is the tallest player on this roster. Did they actually go out and find another rim protector, someone who can come in for those defensive minutes while Aaliyah either is in foul trouble or to spell her a quick little breather? That still hasn't been addressed. I think, though, bringing in DeWanna Bonner and trying to beef up your defense throughout the playing field, I think that is certainly one way of doing it. But I did find it interesting to hear that sort of feedback about, hey, they didn't go out and they didn't get Kwame Brown or somebody who's going to just clog up the paint per se.
Yeah, DeWanna Bonner and Brianna Turner are two players who are really long and can be rim protectors for you. They did get Damaris Dantas, who
they've had her. Yeah, she was a real great pickup mid-season last year.
Yeah, she can be kind of somebody in that vein that can kind of just soak up some minutes and clog up the lane a little bit for you. So yeah, I think they'll be all right in that department. They might have some trouble, as every team will when they go up against the Asia Wilsons of the world, but that's cost no business.